Today, I'm going to be smoking 2 chuck roasts with olive wood out on the Weber kettle. But I'm not going to be using the briquette baskets. I'm not going to be using the Vortex. I'm going to be using something I've never used before, the Slow and Sear. That's right. I'm probably one of the 3 people in the barbecue world who's never used a Slow and Sear. I've seen so many videos on it. I've always wanted to try it, but just never really wanted to run out and get one. I have the Vortex, I have the briquette baskets. Well, David at Adrenaline Barbecue reached out and said, hey, you want me to send you one so you can try it out? Oh, sure, why not? I'll give it a try. And the thing I really want to try with it is not the sear aspect of it today. It's the slow aspect. If it will give me that consistent temperature over a longer period of time during that slow cook while I do these chuck roasts, I'll consider that a success. So let's get started, and the first thing I've got to do is make this rub. How many ingredients? 5 ingredients. I'm not going over 5 today. First ingredient, 2 tablespoons of ground black pepper, 1.5 tablespoons of smoked paprika, 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic, 1 tablespoon of hickory smoked salt. I did a video on how to make hickory smoked salt, and this stuff is great. And 1 tablespoon of Trader Joe's South African smoked seasoning blend. Gonna put the lid on, shake it up. There's our rub, let's give it a try. Really good. It's kind of that classic SPG rub with a little bit of extra things in there. Got that salt, got that pepper, nice smoky flavor from both the hickory salt and from that smoked seasoning blend. It's going to work great on these chuck roasts. So I have 2 USDA choice chuck roasts here. They're each about 2.5 pounds. And we have some decent marbling in them. They're not prime, they're choice, but they look pretty good. I don't really need to do any further trimming on these, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit these with the rub. It's going to get a nice coating. Make sure you get the edges on these too. Chuck roasts have quite a bit of surface area when you consider the edges also. All right, these look like they're rubbed up nice, good coating of seasoning over all the surfaces. I'm going to put these in the refrigerator for about 15-20 minutes while we go outside and get the Slow and Sear going. When David at Adrenaline Barbecue said he wanted to send me one, I just asked, well, what are the parameters of this, you know? And he said, just read the instructions and use it and see how it works. So that's what I did. I read the instructions. So I've got a dozen briquettes here. I'm going to light them using my propane torch, which is how I usually light these small amounts. All right, I'm going to give these about 15 minutes or so to sort of fully catch and start to ash over. Then I'll add the rest of the charcoal to this as it says in the instructions. If you're hearing some lawnmower noise, well, please pardon that. I know you're hearing traffic. Traffic's all the time at my house. Now, if you're thinking, gosh, another Slow and Sear video, or hey, this guy got a free Slow and Sear. All right, yeah, you know, that was my concern too when David reached out to me. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of Slow and Sear videos. And so I asked him, I said, hey, you know, I want to do some different things with this. And he said, go ahead. So now this first cook isn't so different. It's doing chuck roast, which I know people have done using the Slow and Sear. But I want to do over the next couple months, I want to try out the aspects of this that I would use mostly. Big time, the slow aspect, which I mentioned. If this unit will live up to what I understand it's supposed to be able to do, and I can put these chuck roasts on here and sort of forget about it for hours on end, that'll be a major thumbs up in my book. One reason is it's humid today. I don't want to stand out here if I don't have to nursing the kettle or adding more charcoal or things like that. I'd like to be able to just put it on there, let it do what it needs to do, and only come out when I have to do things like wrap it later and add some liquid and put it back on. So in this first use of the Slow and Sear, while I make these olive smoked chuck roasts, we'll see. If it doesn't live up to the expectations, I'll let you know. I am trying to follow the directions to the letter here, but I want to be able to use it the way I would use a piece of cooking equipment. I'm not going to use small chunks of wood. I like using those sort of 6-inch splits of wood when I'm smoking. I don't think that's going to have any effect on it. If it does, that will be some point to consider in how I think I'm going to use this. So for this first test of the slow and sear today, it's all about the slow. Okay, our charcoal looks good there, those first dozen briquettes. I'm going to go ahead and add the chimney full of unlit charcoal as per the directions. Just a few of these here. May have to take a few off if this is too much because the cooking grate comes very close to this. I don't know if my chimney's a little bigger. I think it's just normal size, but I may have to take a few pieces of this off. I think I will, just to be safe, so it's not overloaded and not touching the cooking grate. All right, looks good. Now it's time to add the 1 quart of nearly boiling water. Let's get the cooking grate on. Get our temperature probe set up. So I have the probe probably about, I don't know, 8 inches away from the charcoal. This is normal position I would have it if I was running briquette baskets or the vortex in here. So let's go ahead and get these chuck roasts on. Go ahead and get my temperature probe in here. See if we have good placement. 42 degrees, that's perfect. Just came out of the refrigerator about 10 minutes ago. Okay, I'm gonna get my first piece of wood on here. I'm just gonna put the stick of olive. I'm gonna start it over by this side so it will eventually catch as these coals catch. I'm gonna leave the wing here open like that so it gives more room for wood. That's one of the things I'm noticing is if you have this slow and sear filled with a full chimney of charcoal, it does seem to come right up to grate level. So if you're adding wood chunks on there or anything like that, it can be a little bit of a hindrance if you don't have this opening. So I've got to check and see, maybe my chimney is too big. It's just the Weber standard chimney. So I have to see. I didn't overload it. It was actually just below the top rim. But so far, so good. All right, let's get the lid on and set the vents as they're supposed to be set. Okay, it says to have the top vent open fully, which it is. And it says the bottom vent should be about half. I have my 1/3 and 2/3 marks on here. So I'm gonna bring it right between those. There's 2/3, so I'm guessing half is somewhere right about there. Good smoke rolling out of there. Just gonna monitor these temperatures and adjust the vents as we need to. So the temperature I'm hoping for in the kettle today is right around 250. If it gets down to 225, I'm totally fine with that. The internal meat temperature we're going for in this initial phase is somewhere between 150 and 160. Once we get that and we're in that sort of stall range, we're gonna wrap it in foil with some moisture in there. We're gonna put it back on and we're gonna take it up to somewhere between 195 and 200 plus, but that's just the guide. Once we get to that desired tenderness, we're gonna be using these chuck roasts for 2 different things. One of them is gonna be used in another video. One of them I'm gonna slice for some sliced beef sandwiches. So I'm gonna monitor these temperatures, adjust the vents as necessary, and I'll bring you back in a bit. All right, the kettle temp is about 216 or so. I reduced the upper vent to about half, as it says in the instructions. The lower vent is now at 1/3. That's the lowest mark I have, and I think that's about where it should be per the instructions. So now I'm just gonna watch this and see if I can get it to settle into that 225 to 250 range. Still got nice smoke coming out of there. Okay, I made a couple slight adjustments. I opened the bottom vent a little closer to 2/3 and the upper vent about 3/4, and seemed to be stabilizing, you know, in the upper 220s, which is fine with me. I know this is gonna take time to develop. My first time using this, you know, I'll be able to dial it in better, but right now, you know, it's doing well. It's doing what it's supposed to do. You know, just by following those instructions, it's, you know, staying in that 225 to 250 range. So far so good. Internal meat temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. Still got about 100 degrees to go there. Could take hours and hours. Anywhere from 2 hours to 5 hours, just depends on the meat. I'll keep monitoring this. I'll need to add some more olive wood a little later. I'll bring you back when it's time to have a look and see how it's doing. Okay, so we've got an internal meat temperature of 157. The kettle temperature is 242, and I've got to be honest, it's stayed pretty much rock solid between 230 and 255 for the past 3 hours. So that's pretty darn good. The only thing I did was add one small piece of olive in that time. Didn't do anything else to the charcoal. It's just been running rock solid. So so far the slow and sear is living up to it with that slow part. So let's take a look at this chuck roast, because I think we're ready to wrap it. So let's take a look at a couple things on the slow and sear first. We've still got a really good amount of charcoal left. The entire one side has not ignited yet. The other side is burning, seems steadily, but not too fast. Might be hard to see, but the water reservoir looks to be about 1/3 full still. So that makes sense. The initial part of this cook a lot of heat, generate a lot of steam, and you can even see a lot of moisture on the chuck roast, which is fine with me. The two chuck roasts look good. We're not having a really hard bark develop yet. There's so much moisture in here with that water. That's okay. I'm not really going for a hard bark on this. If I wanted to, I could let this go another hour or so and try and develop that more, but I really want the tenderness and the moisture in this meat. So far, this is looking really good. We're at 157. It's stalled right now. It's been at 157 for about 20 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap these. There's number one. Build up a little reservoir around this. And I'm going to add some beef broth here, just so we have a little more moisture in this. We wrap it up. And that's maybe a 1/4 cup. I'm going to turn it and double wrap it. That nice and tight, get that back on, wrap the other one. All right, let's get this back on the kettle. All right, I'm going to get my temperature probe back in, and I'm just going to try and get it to where it's going to give me a reading to where we left off, that 157. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, we're showing an internal meat temperature of 155, so that's a pretty close hit to where we had it before at 157. I'm good with that. Let's get the lid back on and keep this cooking. We'll let the kettle come up to temp. I'll keep monitoring the temperature so we still stay in that 225, 250 range. And when the meat starts hitting that 195 range, I'll start probing it for tenderness. We don't need to worry about any wood smoke anymore. It's all just about heat now. Bring you back when it's time to check this. Okay, the kettle temp is 242. The meat temp's 196. It's time to start probing it. It has been almost 5 hours, and this slow and sear just rocked this slow. I mean, I haven't done anything to the charcoal. It's still going in there. I haven't even looked other than when we've had it open or just adjusted the vents initially. So I'm impressed so far. All right, let's get this open, because we're going to probe these chuck roasts first, and if they're probing tender, we're going to wrap them in a towel and put them in a cooler for another hour and a half. Okay, before I probe those, I want to take a look at the slow and sear. I would say probably about 75% of the charcoal has either fully burned or mostly burned. The other 25% is in some state of actual burning, which means this still has some time to go. I mean, this could probably go another hour to 2 hours without having to do anything and still maintain that temperature between that 225 and 250. So we're talking, 7 hours on one chimney full of charcoal. That's pretty impressive. I know that it's supposed to do that. Other people have done this before. But when you're testing something yourself, you really want to put it through those paces and actually see it do the work. And it's doing it. All right, let's probe these chuck roasts and see how they're doing. Start with this one over here. Now remember, I'm going through 2 layers of foil here. Okay, that's feeling very tender. Let's check this one. Same thing, very tender once it's through the foil, just sliding. All right, it is time to get these off here, wrap them in that towel and put them in the cooler. Just gonna fit this down into the bottom there. Its friend right on top. And we're just gonna bring the towel over, have it cram in there, close the lid. We won't be opening that for another hour and a half. All right, here's one of our chuck roasts. I want to open it up for you before I transfer it to a cutting board. So let's see what we have inside. It is still very hot. It's been a little more than an hour and a half. Look at all that juice. Look at that. All right, I'm going to get this transferred to the cutting board and I'll bring you back. Here's this beautiful chuck roast. Oh, it is still very hot, but it's time to cut into this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut straight across this way. Let's see. Looking good. Nice smoke ring there, if you can see this. Look at that, just falling apart. Oh. This is beautiful. This is pretty fall apart tender. So slices are going to be tricky. You can see it's just pulling apart here. It's kind of like that brisket pull. Just look at that. So I am going to build a sandwich out of some of these slices from this chuck roast, but first I gotta have a taste of this. This is almost like the point from the brisket. It is so fatty. Oh man. Sometimes just that beef flavor. Simple rub on it, adding that beef broth while it was in the foil, it just totally enhances the beefiness of this. It is so good. Oh. Good smoke ring, not super deep. We only had about 3 hours of smoke. If this had been a chuck roast we did for 5 or 6 hours naked in there without being wrapped first, you would have had a deeper smoke ring, but it's there and I'm getting that olive that I used on some short ribs before. Really good. Oh man. Moist, fall apart, everything's just I mean, you could shred this. This is pullable. Oh. Chuck is one of those cuts of meat that you treat like a brisket a little bit, shorter amount of time, but you can flavor it any way you want. You could go sweet on this. You could put, brown sugar rub on it. I've done that before. It's really good. I wanted to go just straight, really traditional, simple rub, SPG, a couple extra flavors in there, some really good smoke with that olive wood, and it turned out. Melts. It just dissolves right there. Okay, it's time to build a sandwich out of this. Just gonna start laying some of these pieces on here. Whoa, it's getting top heavy. Nice fatty pieces. Lay some crosswise here. Want to put a little horseradish on here. I want to put a few marinated red peppers on top of this. Now I could also go very barbecue on this and put barbecue sauce, but I'm just going for that horseradish sort of bite and the kind of the sweet coolness of these red peppers. All right, let's top this and have a taste. Got my sliced chuck roast sandwich here. Very simple, not a lot on it. Just a few flavors because I really want to taste this beef. So here we go. Chuck works so well in a sandwich. Completely tender, juicy, takes that flavor of the horseradish really well. The little peppers on top are nice. This is just a simple sandwich. Look, it's not big. It's just so good. I mean, really, the sandwich is just a delivery system for the chuck roast, but boy, it works. If you wanted to, you could take this, you could serve it with potatoes, you could serve it over rice, you could flavor it any way you want. Again, chuck roast takes flavors so amazingly well. That's why at the end of this, you could pull it. You could dump barbecue sauce in there, make barbecued beef sandwiches, sliced beef sandwiches with barbecue sauce, or like I did with some horseradish and some peppers. Chuck roast is one of those versatile cuts of meat that gets overlooked a lot of times. It just takes time to cook, like a brisket, but not as long. You get very similar results.
And I want to say just a quick word about the slow and sear that I tried today for the first time during this cook of these 2 chuck roasts. I'm impressed with it. It did what it said it was going to do. It allowed me to cook for 5 hours with 1 chimney of charcoal that I didn't have to keep tending to. And I think that's really the key with it. It's sort of, you get it dialed in, and I'll get better at it as I use it more. Once you get it dialed into that specific thing, you don't have to do much to it. And that brings me to my only issue with it. It is so large in terms of height in there that you can't really put a wood chunk in there with a full chimney of charcoal and close that upper wing. Now, is that a major issue? Not really. That wing can stay open if you're adding wood for smoke. You're not going to have the meat directly over searing at that time anyway. But it is something I have to plan for if I am going to be doing slow and searing. At some point, I'm going to have to close that wing. Now, looking at the charcoal, it's gone down by that point. It's not all the way up to the top. There's going to be plenty of room. So that's really my only thought on this. Is it a perfect piece of equipment? No, I don't think anything is. But for what it says it's going to do, it delivers. And again, that was sent to me for free for evaluation. I am telling you my honest opinion on it. If I hated it, I would tell you. I'm very thankful that David sent it to me. I'm going to keep using it over the next several months, trying different methods and different pieces of meat with it. And I'll let you know if something doesn't work or if something works really great. But so far, in the slow aspect of it, I'm really liking it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to check out some of the other videos on my channel and consider subscribing. And if you do, click that bell for notifications. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you again soon.